These are beautiful open back planar headphones, but how do they sound? Let's check them out. Dave Taylor here, and I'm checking out more audiophile headphones. This time it's these. These are the Audeze MM-100 open back planar headphones. And they have some very nice specs and a really interesting design. And they seem to cause confusion with a lot of people that have checked them out. So we're going to go through some of the things people miss. But let's start with some specs, because I know that's a great place to start. So 20 to 25,000 hertz frequency response, total harmonic distortion of less than 0.1%, a max SPL of 120 decibels, and 18 ohm impedance, because they are, even though I'm showing you this, they are wired headphones, and they have no fancy controls. There's no complexity here. You don't have to study the guide or get a little app for shortcuts. It is a single 3.5 millimeter plug that goes to a 1/4-inch jack that you can plug into your audio gear. Don't have that plug on your device? No problem. They include a 1/4-inch to 3.5 millimeter adapter, so you can easily plug it in like that. And now it's a little chunky, but it is ready to go into a 3.5 millimeter jack like a computer if you're using that for mixing. Now, what I did for my auditioning is I actually added this. This is the IFI Audio Hip DAC. So this takes whatever audio I give it and it plugs into a computer via USB-C instead of 3.5 millimeter, and it just gives you so much more out of the music. It is an amp, but it also can decode the music in a better way. So this I plugged into my Mac, and then the other end I plugged into the headphones. So this is basically the setup that I had. And now here's an interesting bit of design, is that this 2.5 meter cable, it's pretty darn long, I hope you can see that, and you can plug it into either ear. Now, some headphones at the higher end actually plug into each ear, but this one has a wire running across the top. Obviously, it's inside, so you can't see it or worry. You don't have to worry about it, but you can plug into either side depending on which one's actually going to work better for you. So if I want to plug it into my right ear, then there is a convenient plug, and now I'm good to go. And of course, it's going to give me both ears. And there is a subtle mark on the inside. This says R, and that one logically says L. Be confusing if they both said R, but that's another story. So these feature 90 millimeter planar magnetic drivers, and that's a pretty fancy technology that's going to give you what should give you really clean, crisp audio response. The components are really nice. They've used magnesium and aluminum and steel. There's nothing plasticky about this at all. It's a very solid design, and it definitely feels like if you're halfway through mixing and you're just frustrated and you throw it down on your soundboard, no problem. It's going to be able to handle the reality of modern sound mixing. So the ear pads are gel-filled, and they say they're leather. Some people suspect that they're fake leather. Honestly, I'd rather that they were fake leather, but they don't actually specify, so let's just assume that they're leather. And there is this adjustable headband. And here's one of the things that people don't understand, is that if I put these on straight out of the box, it's a little obvious and a little noticeable on the top of my head, but you can adjust it. So this headband actually has 3 different settings on each side. So you can pop it out and you can actually loosen it or make it smaller. If you have a smaller head and it feels like the earpieces are hanging too low or they're too high, you can adjust that so that you have the perfect fit. I don't think the company does a good job of conveying that sort of information, which is why some people get a little confused. So this is what's known as a suspension headband. And some of these I've seen on headphones have a lot of give, so you don't really have to adjust them. But this one's a little bit more firm, so you will want to actually wear it probably for a day or two and then decide, did it feel like it was perfectly centered over your ear without any hassle, or was that something where you felt like you just wished it was slightly different, in which case you can adjust it. So cool. Let's see. not much else to tell you about these. The cable, I think it's a nice quality cable. It's a braided cable, and as you can see, the connector at the end is pretty chonky. So this is a pretty substantial thing. They are not really designed to be portable in as much as they don't really fold up or anything. They are designed to be worn. And then when you're not wearing them, you're probably going to have them on a headphone stand, or you might just have them sitting on your desk, in your office, in your studio, whatever. I will note that it comes with this very nice brushed velvet bag. It is a huge bag. It is much larger than it needs to be, which is kind of interesting. But I will say that if you are going to be hitting the road, then this is a very swanky way to make sure it stays protected while you are on the road. And as I have said many times, am not a fan of those hard cases because they tend to be enormous, particularly for a design that doesn't fold up for portability. So having this velvet bag, very nice. In fact, this is probably usable for other things like your small laptop or something. Anyway, what we need to talk about is we need to talk about the sound. So I'm going to preface this by saying that I used Spotify on my Mac in the highest quality audio setting. I don't yet have lossless enabled, even though I'm a premium subscriber. I'm expecting that any day now. I'm very excited that Spotify is finally moving to lossless, but very high quality on a super fast internet connection. I was getting a big wide pipe of music data. And then I plugged in my IFI audio DAC. And then from there, I used the headphones. So I was using the EQ in Spotify as I listened to different genres of music. I went through some techno and fell into my usual genre of jazz and did some contemporary pop and classical too. And I'll tell you that it probably does require a little bit of adjustment to get the best possible sound, but I was very impressed. I think they sound really good. So they have a nice big sound stage. It's not an enormous sound stage, but it's very much what you want when you're doing music mixing or working with audio material, because you want to have it be somewhat intimate. So I found the soundstage was really nice. When you got into classical work, it might have felt a little bit constrained, but for most of the music I listened to, very, very nice. There was a nice clarity to it, which is what those planar drivers get. So it was very listenable. The lyrics, the people singing, male or female, even those high notes, it all sounded very pleasant. And the bass, when I was getting into the techno, there's definitely plenty of bass. You might want to tweak your EQ a little bit, but to me, I really like headphones that default to being flat or acoustic. So I want to hear the actual signal all the way from the lowest frequencies to the highest frequencies. And then if my musical preference is to pump up the bass or to give me a lot of mid-range or something, then I can adjust the source without wanting headphones that are already pre-designed so that they give you tons of bass. Therefore, you can't ever not have that heavy bass sound, even if you're trying to mix something different. So lots to like here. I really like the design. I think they probably need a little bit more documentation in the box. Literally, once you find it, the box is a little bit of a puzzle box. You have to open to find things, but it has this certificate of authenticity, which is nice. And then it has a card that just says, this is where you can download manuals and drivers. I would encourage the company to add a little fold-out quick start that talks about things like how to adjust your headband. I think that would save them a little bit of grief with some customers that maybe aren't going to go online and aren't going to look for drivers and aren't going to go and like download a manual or something. I know that having printed content in a box obviously is something you have to keep updating, but okay. So that's what I got here. I am a fan of these. I like the Audeze line overall, but I think these are a nice, relatively entry-level price audiophile headphone. So they're ones worth checking out. And, again, they're wired. If you can get a DAC, the DAC is going to make them sound even better, which is entirely reasonable. And that's pretty much what I have to share with you. I am going to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Click or tap on that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon for notifications of my new content. And if you found this of value, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. Sweet. These are the Audeze MM-100 open back planar headphones, and they are $399 at Amazon.com. If you're interested in the DAC, I have a link to it in the description, but this is all about these headphones, and I gotta say, they're sounding pretty nice. So that's what I got. Hope to catch you in my next video.